I've been using the Sydon. It looks cool, but does it measure up? Well, not exactly. Hence why this is another Overlook. I haven't done this much. Last time was when I covered the Axomati, but oh well, here we go. It's almost the same as both the Sero and the Tonbo, though the Sydon is primarily puncture, even though the polearm moveset has no thrusting moves at all. I would like to see this reclassified as a spear-type weapon in the future. Apparently, its default moves have thrusting motions, which is nice, but that requires having no stance equipped, which is generally a bad idea. The Sydon is available for research from your local clan dojo's chem lab, and will afterwards require 20,000 credits, 4 detonite, 1,100 circuits, 4,000 salvage, and a fully built amphis with a mastery rank requirement of 2 to build in the foundry. It does require another weapon sadly, but this one is actually not too bad. The amphis itself isn't too expensive to craft, the blueprint is available on the market, and is another Grineer weapon, so for once I have no issues with this. It's like you're upgrading the amphis, which is kinda nice. And the amphis build time is the shorter 12 hours. Alternatively, if you want to cosplay as King Triton right now, you can get the Sydon from the market, pre-built with its own slot and a pre-installed catalyst for 180 platinum. Aside from the actually fairly relaxed build requirements, its stats kind of blend into some other pre-existing polearms. It does 75.1 damage in total, 71.3 in puncture, and a very small 3.8 in impact. Good against armoured units, but here is where things get samey. It has a 25% status chance, which is identical to the Sero and Tonbo, and shares the Sero's 0.917 attack speed. The status chance is good, but it lands in the middle of the other two for status potential. The Tonbo's damage types are diluted with the presence of all 3 physical damage types, but the Sero does pure electrical damage, so the Sero wins the status battle. The Sydon does have the best critical stats of the bunch, with a 10% critical chance and a 2 times critical damage multiplier, but I don't consider this strong enough to be worth modding for. Aside from that, it comes with a scratch polarity in its stance slot, which matches Shimmering Blight, but unfortunately comes along with no other innate polarities. And this is where I start complaining. Not necessarily about the Sydon, because the Sydon is fine, but about polearms in general. They are all extremely similar, and the stances are both lackluster. Shimmering Blight is a single 2-hold 2 combo, and Bleeding Willow has a single 2-hold 3 combo, so even their inputs are similar. Bleeding Willow does at least have the benefit of vertical attacks and a bunch of forward travel in its combo, but the fact remains that the stances are among the most bland in the game. I suppose it could be worse. It could be like Gnashing Pyara. One combo disguised as 2 that are both clunky. Fuck you, Gnashing Pyara. For that matter, the pole weapons are at least decent. Dual daggers are basically universally terrible, but I digress. I don't necessarily want to see a new stance for polearms, at least not right away. First, I want Shimmering Blight and Bleeding Willow to be made better first. At least give them a second combo, because this is just kind of stupid. I do usually go into the nuances of the different moves available to a melee weapon when I can, and I do go into a fair bit of detail in the uses of the Ninkondi's different moves, but there's just nothing to say about either of the pole weapon stances as they are right now. Except, perhaps, that they have some awkward pauses in their combos, meaning that pole weapons are best used when you're not actually holding them. There are issues with long parts and pauses in the combos that mean you can get locked into an animation and get you killed at high levels. And the Sydon really starts to struggle at high levels. After my own use, I can't say I'd recommend this thing in Endless Tower 4 Void missions, even within its own weapon class. The Sero is better for status, the Tonbo is more powerful and faster, and the Orthos Prime, while weaker, is even faster, and both of those have the same 10-meter knockdown slam attacks. So basically, unless you're a collector or really like how the Sydon looks in particular, and I happen to be both of those things so that works for me, but in any case, without either of those things, and especially if you're already happy with either the Tonbo or Sero, there isn't any point in devoting time to ranking a Sydon up except for mastery fodder. Perhaps it is worth waiting for when the spear weapons are released. If we're lucky, this trident will be reclassified as a spear when that happens.